Welcome to yet a very, very exciting edition of Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. On this edition of the program, Athletics Federation of Nigeria trims Nigerian Islamic Games contingent. And coming in from the world of boxing, Anthony Joshua set for a boxing match return. Bayern Munich maintains a perfect start in the UEFA Champions League. Details of these and many more will be yours when we return for the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's Sports Talk, and this hour I have with me Epo Temple.
It's a delight to be here. Always a pleasure. Good morning, Mr. Siri.
Together, we'll bring you up to speed with the latest happening around the world of sports. First, we have to start in athletics, where the Federation here in Nigeria has confirmed that only 17 athletes will represent the country in athletics in the forthcoming 2025 Islamic Solidarity Games coming up in Saudi Arabia. Epo, following the withdrawals of notable names, including African shot put record holder Chukwuebuka Enekweche, the final list will be made available to these men and reflects a complete reduction from the initial 25-man squad published on the game's website.
The reason is simple. Some of the athletes who are scheduled to be part of this game have voluntarily, decided not to for personal reasons, such as Enekwechi, Chukwuebuka, and others. So I think that it's just normal that if you have those, if you've planned that some key athletes will be part of it and they decline, you just have to reselect and then look at the numbers. Don't forget that the last time we ever did something great, or the first time even, it was in 2017 when we won 4 medals, and since then we haven't won any. So I think that Nigeria needs to, as part of its renewed hope agenda in sports, they need to be very careful to say, okay, not just sending athletes, it's about sending strategic athletes that will get us something at the end of the day. And maybe that could be the reason why the Athletics Federation are looking at, okay, who are the athletes that will go for us. Let's trim down. Let's have a specific quota, and let's work with those plans.
Talking about renewed hope agenda in sports, I think apart from facilities, I think administration as well should be one of the key aspects of renewed hope in sports. For the names we've seen so far that have withdrawn from the sport, the Islamic Games, they are known names. Chukwuebuka Enekweche, very well-known name, and he's had his reason for pulling out of the games. He's talked about his marriage wedding that is coming up at about the same time. One would have thought that the renewed hope agenda should include proper administration as well. Should have been planned. It should have looked forward to, okay, well, this athlete you have named, is he busy at this time in period? Is he involved in one thing or the other before listing the name, on the website? It looks like the administrators just put up the names without regard to how the athletes will, what the athletes programs are like. Look at Divine Oladipo. He too recently switched allegiance from Great Britain, to Nigeria, and you will have thought that, all of this will be taken into consideration given the necessary requirements and rules for athletes representing his or her country.
I agree with you, but I look at it in two different dimensions. One, these bodies, the Islamic athletics bodies, when they make plan to say, well, next year we're going to host, they don't plan like us. They are very strategic in their planning. They plan like biannual, 2 years ahead or 3 years. It all depends on when the program is staged. Now, they come out, they have a meeting, and they say, okay, we're going to host in 2025, we're going to host it in November. They agree on the venue, they agree on how the process is, they set up a committee. It is expedient on, like you said, that's where administration comes in. Expedient on Nigeria representative to come back home and put it in the calendar. Now that you are fixing the calendar, you also, think that, okay, that bearing anything, I'm not sure that the federation at that time knew that any country will be getting married. So this year, the budget...
They knew because Enekweche was engaged in January.
But yes, that's why the error now comes in. But I think that, okay, they'll just fix it as, okay, this is what we're going to have this year. These are the athletes. Bearing any circumstances, these athletes will be available. Now, with all the processes, the first quarter, at the end of first quarter, it is very clear the calendar of the athletes for the year. That is the mistake now they made. You knew that, okay, these are the processes. And then that's where the issue of welfare of athletes comes in. In the Super Eagles, before you invite a player, sometimes some coaches do detailed due diligence by calling the players or visiting them to know how far will they be available, checking on their growth, injury concerns and all that. And that forms the bulk of why they should be invited. In that position, they are missing that part of it. That personal part of it. They just feel that because they're Nigerians, they'll always be free to come down home. And it's not true, because when they have personal commitment, they now weigh it. What will I gain if I go this? What about this? So I think that going forward, the Tinubu Kokowa and his team needs to go deeper. This is not what the NSC will do. NSC can only formulate policies that will guide the relationship with players and ensure that there is harmony. But in terms of athlete welfare, details should be paid to, what is the condition of this athlete in his personal activities of abroad. Those things matter, and unfortunately, we are yet to get that area of, the relationship right.
In this era of Renewed Hope Sports agenda, we hope that apart from facilities and, of course, proper funding, administration will be top-notch as well, because following the withdrawal of top athletes from the Islamic Games due to get underway in just about 4 days or so from now, it is really sad. But again, we hope that the admixture of local and foreign athletes that will represent the country at these Islamic Games coming up in Saudi Arabia in just about 30 days or so will be that will improve on our fortunes. In 2017 April, last time Nigeria did appear at these games, we saw about 4 gold medals, 3 silver, and I think a bronze medal. Can we improve on this in sprints and other events where Nigeria will partake at this year's event?
I can't tell. I mean, our biggest medal hopeful, is Senekwachi, and he's pulled out from that particular one. So maybe except in the mixed relay or in the relays generally, maybe you can put something from that part, because you also look at it, not the only nation that is going for this particular one. Islamic competition is a very vast one because they have a very strong foot when it comes to athletics. So if all the big names comes, just like we've seen in the Olympics and in other meets, it becomes very difficult because this is not about athletics alone. It's about every all-round game for me. So I just keep my finger crossed. Don't forget, like I said, since 2017, what happened 2018, 2019, what happened 2021, this is 2025. So you ask yourself a lot of questions. Why are we not doing so well recently? Maybe because of this planned underneath now, and if athletes are well motivated, I'm sure some of them are going to do the needful.
Well, let's get to rugby now. Nigeria's men's national rugby league side endured a very chilling return to the international competition as they fell 70-6. Yes, you heard me right. 70-6 to Cumbria in a one-sided encounter at the Northern competition that took place in Barrow. Epo, how could this happen? Before 1,475 spectators, Nigeria makes very first outing in 2 years, and it's on a sour note.
A very sad note, and I mean, they are not following the feet of the ladies, the Green Falcons. Yes, they lost to one of the teams recently in the competition, in the qualifiers for the World Cup. But if you look at what the ladies did, you know that there is a deep progress, you know. So I think that for the Green Machine, they've not really shown excellence in terms of display. And I know that that this is an area that we need to start working on. Losing 70 to Cumbria, you can't compare anyway. You can't compare the exposure and the technicality. You know, in that game, they possessed the ball, they possessed the territory, and they also had a good player exchange. And that was very beautiful because if you don't have those criteria, it's like a normal thing we get to see in field of play. The technical part of it is what we're missing. We might have the able-bodied athletes to deliver, but we do not understand the tactics, and we need to come back home and have just like Ouya Pata did when we were building cricket anew, get experts that can come and train us in that area, because it's not about building the body. It took South Africa so many years to become a strong fold when it comes to rugby. If Nigeria needs to do that, we need to be very intentional, and I think that all this one we're doing is just exposure is good, but exposure without technicalities and tactics is there's a missing link there.
Weather conditions had any impact in the large scoreline?
Yes, of course. When the guys who are playing are not used to cold, they train in a very hot atmosphere, and then you are taking them to a coastal region where everything
freezing conditions
in a very high degrees. So when I saw it, I asked myself, I said, who does that? It's difficult because I'm sure the scoreline would have been lesser if they played in a temperature that they are used to. Unfortunately, when you go for these exposures, you are bound to train and play elsewhere.
Well, the embarrassing scoreline for Nigerian rugby side there against Cumbria, but we hope that lessons will have been learned and better prepared for next time. Away from rugby now, let's go to boxing, where there could be cheering news because Anthony Joshua's promoter Eddie Hearns has confirmed that the British Nigerian former heavyweight champion will return to boxing this year. We're just about a few weeks to the end of the year. Can Anthony Joshua's return to the ring see the light of the day?
I still doubt it. Because when you are returning to the ring, who are you going to fight? Are they going to just fix a fight just because they want to fight? Usually we know how the plans before a fight, and they want to make him the top card on the very day. So I'm beginning to ask the vibe of they've already fixed dates that they want to have their exhibition about I think 2 times this month, 27th of next month. Even if you want to take it to 27, are you going to have a formidable opponent that people will look at and say this is not an RNG something? So for me, I think that Eddie Hearn is pushing too much. I like this guy to rest. Even if he does not fight this year, it's not a problem. The last time he fought was in September when he lost to Dubois. But I still think that if you want to get the best out of him, give him enough time to rest, allow him to train harder, and let him come back fine and good next year. I mean, the rush for me is unexplainable, and it doesn't hold water for me.
You're looking forward to seeing Anthony Joshua box. It may not be this year, going the fact that the calendar has been really, really full, and no name at his opponent. As we mentioned, he needs to have a big-time opponent. Last time he lost out, I think Anthony Dubois, and we hope that he will come back to another very strong fighter to make a name. If you have to return, then you have to beat a champion. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed and see how far Hens will arrange for his prodigy, Anthony Joshua, that is born and, of course, bred in England. Meanwhile, we'll now go to tennis. And talking about tennis, world number one, Arina Sabalenka in female tennis has entered beat mode because aftermath of that Jessica Pegula's defeat in the close knockout stage of the WTA finals. Sabalenka has secured back-to-back wins in Riyadh, if you remember. But looking like she's now on the wrong side of it. Pegula did take her out 6-4, 2-6, 6-3, but required a straight-set win to confirm her status.
I think that for Jessica Pegula, she's had a very good run, but when you play against a dogged, Arina Sabalenka, you have to be at the very best so that you can be sure that you need to win. For Arina Sabalenka, I think she won the first game. She has won another one again. It was a very difficult one against Pegula because Pegula won the second set. But somehow she came strong in the third set and was able to get that particular one and dusted. To win Pegula, you need to dig deep because Pegula is also not happy that she lost to Arina Sabalenka in the finals of the U.S. Open when she won her fourth Grand Slam. So all of this comes to mind, and it's not done and dusted because the group is still very open right now.
There's Coco Gauff waiting for her.
That third game. Don't forget that Jessica Pegula defeated Coco Gauff in the first game in the Sendraf group. So Jessica Pegula looks like a player that will win against Paulina. Paulina is the whipping dog of the group. She's ousted out already by the victory of Pegula. Coco Gauff, yesterday. So it means that group is open between Jessica Pegula, who will play against Paulina in the last game, and then Coco Gauff and Arina Sabalenka will slug it out in the last game too. So you see, if Gauff wins, Gauff is there's likelihood. A lot is still open. I can't.
Elena Rybakina is looking strong on the other end because she took out former world number one, Iga Swiatek.
She's already qualified now by virtue of good 2 victories, and 2 victories that also ensure that other players are not following up. Like we see what is happening in Group A. So in the Serena Williams group, for her, she has qualified, waiting for any other person that will come in. But I'm sure that Iga Swiatek will still qualify from the group. Something
interesting here. World number one in the female, Arina Sabalenka, up against Nick Kyrgios. Yes, in the battle of the sexes. This is an exhibition match coming up in the United Arab Emirates later this year. A male up against a female.
And the choice of getting a player is a player who is ranked over 600. So I think that for Nick Kyrgios, he entered into this particular one or agreed because he has not played any, and since it's an exhibition, just to have his hands and prepare for the Australian Open, he needed to come back and play against Arina Sabalenka. Arina Sabalenka plays more like a man. So do not look at it from that gender perspective. You don't be surprised what will happen that very day because Nick Kyrgios, for me, the last time he played was in March thereabouts, and he hasn't played because of his wrist injury and concern. So I just keep my finger crossed and see how far it goes. But then it promises to be a lovely one. I love this type of the Saudis. They know how to get things like this and get you entertained in sports.
Talking about the Saudis, they are the new destination of sports, if you ask me, facility-wise, and of course, hosting of competition. They host competition in the various sports, not just tennis or boxing or football. They are spreading across right now. But I'm looking forward to seeing how the female number one in tennis, Arina Sabalenka, will play out Nick Kyrgios, one man that was once, I'd rather say, his name is tennis, but now ranked way 652. So world number one in female up against male 652 ranked player. We'll see who gets the win this one. Saudi Arabia is the next destination in the next couple of days from now. Meanwhile, still talking tennis, 6-time Grand Slam champion Carlos Alcaraz, and of course the 2025 women's runners-up Amanda Asimova will return to Queens next year. This is good. Carlos Alcaraz still pushing strong to see how he can get to the top of tennis. Young kid from Spain continue to excite tennis fans around the world.
Yeah, and it's lovely to get to see how the both of them will come back next year for that particular tournament. Alcaraz has been in fine form. He has shared some of the tour titles with Yannick Sinner this season lost the #1 ranking recently just because he could not get to the semi-finals of the Paris win there, and that ensured that he has to step down a little. But preparations are on for next year. The next thing now is next week the ATP. Okay, on Sunday the ATP finals will commence, and they'll get to see how far he will return to slug it out, to getting to see who is the best guy on the tour this year for the men. So for him, everything started. And then for Anisimova has had a very fine season. One of the fantastic players. No surprising why she ended up in ranked 4th as it stands now, and you expect a lot from her. It's lovely to get to see how she's even going about her games. So for me, I keep my finger crossed and see how far they will play out in Queens come next season.
Well, let's take some basketball story before we wrap up this half of the show. And interestingly, the NBA is beginning to get more interesting following a new season in the basketball. Echo, as we speak, Oklahoma Thunder is up against Clippers, but just before we get to that result, earlier on we saw Toronto Raptors beat Milwaukee Bucks. It ended 128 to 108, and it looks to me like this season might just not be that where you see the Bucks make an impact.
But to be fair to them, they've won. They've also had some good wins. Yes, early days to call. But I think that what we're seeing now is just
128 to 100. That's 28 points gap between
them and Raptors. That tells you the class, the golfing class. I think that yes, even when you see their wins, the last 2 wins they've got so far, it's within a very low margin. So I understand the point you're making that they may not be in competition or strongly competing as is expected. But then the season just started. It's just barely 2 weeks when the season started, and maybe I think that some teams are also still gearing up. It's not easy, but for Toronto Raptors, maybe they want to replicate the feat they did some time ago. The only Canadian team in the NBA, you expect that they were always going to show class. Last season, they were not as strongly competing as we would have expected. So maybe this season, they have, I think they brought in some few names, and let's see how far those exchanges will play out.
Orlando Magic capitulated at home, 112 points to Hawks, 127 points. Can you lose at home? Yes, you can, but early days you want to say?
I just want to say, and surprisingly, the rate of home losses this season, since the season started, has been amazing. A lot of teams lost at home before their spectators, and come on, you begin to ask questions that the NBA is looking like it's going to be no respecter of team this time around, because usually when you play at home, especially in the early period of the NBA, teams at home have more edge, especially if you look at the statistics in the last 2 seasons. And then the NBA is pulling, the list I've seen so far was 11,000, something spectators. So you begin to ask questions. If teams are losing at home, that means we're going to see very strong competition from the both sides in the both conferences this season.
In the last few hours, we've seen 5 teams lose at home. Yes, talking about teams losing at home. We told you earlier how Milwaukee Bucks lost at home and Magic losing at home as well. The other team that lost at home in the early hours of this morning was Philadelphia 76ers. Yes, you had me right. The 76ers lost at home, and it was Chicago Bulls that beat them by 116 points to 111 points scored by the Sixers.
It's terrible, but I think that it still goes to say that what the pundits have predicted.
There was 2 points gap, 111 to 110.
Yes, and those 2 point gap matters. Of course, when you see 2 point gap, it tells you how intense that game would have been and what the players are put in to get maximum. So it could have gone either side, but somehow, the Sixers didn't do enough to get in that particular one.
Honest, yes, they were one of the teams that lost at home, and they lost to the Pelicans, 112 points to 116 points. The Pelicans beating Hornets by 100 and just by 4 points.
And I think for the Pelicans, they've started also getting, they try to get some maximum points. But for me, some teams are just flattering to deceive. Let's see how far it goes. It's kind of difficult to really judge them this time around. But like I said, like what we saw last season, when we never gave a chance to Oklahoma City Thunders, this is how it all started. And they're building gradually.
Phoenix Suns lost at home as well. It was 107 points as compared to 118 scored by the Warriors. The Warriors went all the way to Phoenix and, of course, beat the Suns, or do I say deemed the Sun, by 118 points.
And of course, you look at that game, you begin to ask yourself questions. Some of the players are in. Steph Curry posted 28 points in that encounter. So when you see games like that where he scored, though Devin Booker, had a massive point blowout of 38 thereabouts in that encounter. I was taking my time to really watch them in the early hours of this morning, but then all of that plays nothing, because when you see the Warriors have lost back to back now, they needed to get win, and the players deliver up expectation. I also love the fact that the likes of some players are getting up, the likes of Moody for the Amundi for Warriors, they are building up, but I still don't think that Warriors have gotten it right. Just that Phoenix Suns lost it at some quarter, and that's why they were able to lose that particular one. Otherwise, it would have been a very crazy encounter. 118, 107. It could have gone on either side.
As we speak, we have just about a minute or so to end the match between Thunder and Clippers. It's getting very interesting. It's in the fourth quarter, like I said, to the end of the match with just about 1 minute, less than a minute or so to wrap it up, with 5 teams losing already at home earlier today. We've seen Thunder now trying to stop that home team winning streak, because they lead Clippers by 128 points to 107 points. April, less than a minute to go in this one, and it's looking very interesting.
Well, just I think it's about even 43 seconds right now. If you look at the way the game is going, and you think that this is already a win for, you can't think that's a win for the defending champions, the Oklahoma City Thunders. And for them, Thunders, they have won 7 games this season. They are yet to lose a game. After all, how fantastic they can be. So they go to your home, beat you. They are yet to lose a game this season, and it looks like a team that want to defend their title.
Thunder, no doubt, has been happening across in the United States of America basketball, with 7 wins for Thunder. Clipper now their next victim, because it looks like it will just, there's no way you can come out to cover up for it. 21 points difference between these both sides, and with less than about 8 seconds to wrap up the fixture. And I think that's where we'll take a break. We'll return in a jiffy, and when we return, we'll get into football. We'll look at what's happening in the Nigerian Premier League, the UEFA Champions League. Arsenal continue to make history with the youngest players ever to feature for a side in the UEFA Champions League on showcase last night across Prague, the Czech Republic. And of course, Liverpool as well show why they can be a tough side in the UEFA Champions League. Defending champions, Paris Saint-Germain, lose. A lot has happened in the UEFA Champions League in the last 24 hours. We'll bring you details when we return from the break.
Is een understatement. Ik vraag me af of weer.
Welcome back. It's Sports Talk here, and of course, the concluding half. I will be a little bit faster about it. And Epo, let's take a little bit of highlight of what's happening in Nigerian Premier Football League here in Nigeria. Aftermath of Rangers International's attack in Maiduguri. What could have happened? We will have thought that by now, barbaric behavior would have in the Premier League in Nigeria, but against Academy Warriors in Maiduguri on Sunday, Rangers International did make official complaints of a rude attack.
I think this rudeness in terms of fans' behavior is getting out of it. I mean, and last season it was minimal. This season we have since the season started, after, just 11 matches so far played, we have seen more than 5 of those reports coming from different stadia. So I'm beginning to ask a lot of questions. Is that something that we aren't doing right again in terms of security and in terms of administration? I think that is a wake-up call, and the Nigerian Premier Football League Board needs to do a whole lot to curbing these menace. Otherwise, it will cripple. The recent one from Maiduguri is certainly not a good place. We remember Maiduguri for these things, but I mean, the last for 3 years, we haven't heard so. Maybe because of the way. So I think that something needs to be looked into deeply to see that this menace does not continue. Otherwise, it will rub off on the successes we've achieved in the last 2 years.
Crowd violence is not a good thing, especially for commercials. For the economic end of the league, you need to be calm. People need to enjoy themselves. Families need to come to the stadium to enjoy rather than being attacked by irate fans. Meanwhile, still looking at reaction from the Nigerian Premier League at the weekend. We understand now, and it's being confirmed, that Daniel Ogumudede, the coach of Remo Stars, has had to part ways with Remo Stars, defending champions of the Premier League here in Nigeria.
Yeah, I said it as if I knew what was coming. That his time, because what the man is building looks like Daniel Ogumudede is not, the vision is not aligning with the vision of the owner of the club. I made it very plain the other day. It's more like a prophetic statement. And I said that the way they lost to Mamelodi Sundowns and the way they went about their preparations, the man is divided. He's divided. You cannot be with the super egos of Nigeria and at the same time be with a team that is building a vision. And I'm not surprised at all. So one have to go. And certainly to be Daniel Ogumudede. No doubt what he has brought to the club, he has brought name, he has brought value, but at some point you just have to go to let club go.
We understand he's in part of the coaches that are taking part in the CAF license coach B license course that is ongoing in Abuja in Nigeria. So it looks like hands are in a lot of piles. He's an assistant coach with the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Now he's having to attend a course at the tick of the season. And he may not be giving his 100% to his employers.
So we know how these things are. The moment you are divided from your primary goal or task, you are divided. Your attention span is so little that you need to concentrate at a place and give it all. We knew when he was 100% for Remo Stars and how he delivered the goods. Right now, he's highly divided. He's thinking about this, he's thinking about this. Super Eagles coming for playoffs. I mean, it's a whole lot of work, and he needs to give his 100% in all of this. So, his coaching crew cannot do what he would have done if he was present. So, I think that is part of the reason why you have to mutually, part ways.
Well, let's still bring you reaction from the league here in Nigeria. And of course, Coach Finidi George is not just a top Nigerian coach with Rivers United. Rivers United, of course, we know one of the teams listed in the group stage of the CAF Champions League. And they listed in what looks like a zone of the group of death. They have a Moroccan side, Bekane in that group. There's Power Dynamos of Zambia, and of course, defending champions of the CAF Champions League, Pyramids of Egypt as well in that group. A lot of people believe that Rivers United is the weaker team of that group and may not survive. But Finidi just says he has no fear for any opponent, and the team itself must be mentally strong to meet up with these former champions that are listed in the same Group A, where they will campaign in the next few days from now.
I'm not surprised. I mean, these are certain words that is expected to come from Finidi George at this point. A man who has he has done a lot to ensure that his team gets to the group stage for the first time in their history, and that shouldn't be taken for granted. The CAF Champions League is about 11 players with a team. If you fashion your team to be mentally prepared for this, I mean, nothing's stopping it. That's why we have history makers. Rivers United can go out there, get their home games right. You know, it could be it will be a lions fighting a lion's den, but you need to do everything possible to grind that result. Player marks, I do not know the level of the players, but everything that is needed to prepare at this level, it takes one time. The experience will matter so much because you cannot compare Pyramid, RS Bekin and all that, but I'm just thinking that Rivers United can still show their own strength when the time comes.
Rivers United are expected to show their strength when it comes, and one of the strengths will be, I think they have the first fixture at the end of January and first week of February. I think that will be the first fixture will be away, and then after they return to you at the end of the February for yet another fixture in the CAF Champions League. Wish them the very best of luck. We understand the players are expected to be registered, somewhere at the end of January, at the beginning of January as well. So I hope that they can take time to fortify their team and get better. Meanwhile, we'll go to the UEFA Champions League, and we saw fixtures last night. First, we saw Arsenal go to the Czech Republic, Prague to be specific, and beat Slavia Prague by 3-0. Arsenal can't stop scoring goals and not conceding goals as well. This is their 10th consecutive win in all competitions this season. Arsenal Football Club of England making a lot of impact. We've seen a player as young as 15 years, 308 days in the competition. He's the youngest player ever in the history of UEFA Champions League. Talking about Max Dorman featuring in that features as well. And still talking about Arsenal at the weekend, I did say last night, they seem to have equaled their own club record of 122 years. Yes, this is the last time we saw Arsenal, go into 8 matches winning and not conceding a goal. That record was set way back 122 years ago, and this team seemed to be, on the same trajectory with the team way back in 1903.
Yeah, and it's really more difficult, now to achieve that as compared to then, because now with the technological inputs and the way things are run, it's difficult to say that you're going to play 10 games without conceding. Who does that? It's majestic. I mean, Arsenal have really done so. Look at the records pulled out by Arsenal in recent times, especially this season. Everybody marvels, but the question behind all is
7 of the first team players are on the injury list so far, yet they're still achieving results.
That's where we'll talk about squad depth. And that's what Arteta has done this season. That is different from last season. And that's why a lot of pundits will tell you that, yes, Arsenal, this season looks a little bit different. But then the ability to go one game at a time, not being distracted by other things. Arteta now knows the kind of player he goes into with this particular game, gets the needed result, and he moves on. He's not distracted by what comes next. He looks at the game at a time, and that's why they've gone this far. So I'm just thinking that maybe the purchase in those key areas that he got, those 4 players that he got this season, has really helped him blend in. So that it doesn't matter. If not, at this point, if Arsenal had those injury concerns, I mean, the season is open already for them. But this season, they've really done so well. Look at Max Dorman coming in to also salvage result for Arsenal. It's quite impressive. And then, cannot take away Merino, who stayed in for Eucharist yesterday, scored a brace in that encounter. That tells you how fantastic Arsenal squad are going about the season so far. 7
top leagues first team players are out, yet the team are achieving results. Arsenal, the team to watch out for in this year's both Premier League and the UEFA Champions League competition. Talking about Champions League last night, Napoli played at home, was forced to a goalless draw by Eintracht Frankfurt in one of the features of match day 4 at the UEFA Champions League. Atletico Madrid were in no merciless form because they beat Union St. Gilles by 3-1. Bodo Clint lost at home, Monaco beating them by 1-0. The encounter between Juventus and Sporting Lisbon ended 1-1. Liverpool beat Real Madrid by 1-0. The war against, Trent Alexander-Arnold, you remember him, former as a Liverpool player that went to Real Madrid. He was booed last night, and he was on the losing side as well. Real Madrid beating at the home ground of Liverpool.
Yeah, I think that the result it's a step to show that Liverpool, they are gradually coming back to their mojo. But then it has
talking about Liverpool coming back to the mojo. Last night it could have been like 4-0, but for goalkeeper Couture for Real Madrid.
Yeah, I watched that game and the man saved a whole lot. He was the saving grace for Real Madrid. Real Madrid really had a lot of openings that gave chances, for the players. Virgil van Dijk, also had an opportunity, glorious one indeed. But somehow the man, it shows how he also saved them a few years ago when they won them in the Champions League finals. And yesterday, Liverpool, like I said, tactically they were good enough. Brady also held, that man, Vinicius Junior, to stand still. I think they had a better team as compared to Real Madrid going to that particular one, and not a very welcoming scene for Xabi Alonso.
Meanwhile, Olympiacos drew at home, PSV forcing them to a 1-1 draw. Paris Saint-Germain, defending champions of the UEFA Champions League, lost at home. Bayern Munich beating them by 2-1. Bayern Munich, one team that have not lost so far this season as well, doing so well in both the Bundesliga and the UEFA Champions League. With a very young coach.
They have a killer stint, and if you look at the way the players, they dominated the first half, got the goals seamlessly, and I think that you need to
also...
It was
2-0 at the stage?
Yeah, 2-0 at the stage, and then we saw how they came back in the second half, and they came back so strong. Paris Saint-Germain came back so strong with good tactics, but unfortunately, the deed has been done in the first half.
When you beat the defending champions, then all eyes definitely will be on you. Bayern Munich, eyes are on you, and we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, Tottenham Hotspur was grabbing headlines for very good reasons last night. And inside their own stadium in London, they beat FC Copenhagen by 4-0. Highest scoreline we saw last night in the UEFA Champions League.
Yeah, and I think that was a very lovely goal scored by, what's his name? Very thunderous strike there. That was the signature of all eyes in all the goals scored yesterday at the stadium. And with what Thomas Frank is doing, you just think that they can go all the way.
Tonight, there will be fixtures as well in the UEFA Champions League. All eyes will be on Chelsea. They are in Karabakh to take on the FC Karabakh from an encounter that looks like making a statement for for Chelsea in the UEFA Champions League.
I think this is, on paper, looks like a good one for Chelsea. Chelsea, they should be able to grind that result in this particular one. But Karabakh is also a team, for them to be in the Champions League, you don't take them for granted.
Pafos will take on Villarreal later tonight as well. Ajax is at home to Galatasaray in one of the UEFA Champions League features for today. Bayer Leverkusen is already in Portugal to take on Benfica, while Club Brugge will take on FC Barcelona. One match a lot of fans will keep an eye on.
And all of this will be to get to watch, and I'm sure when we come back later we'll look into some of this game. But interestingly, it's getting heated, and you can't fail to look at what is happening next because of the way the Swiss format of the UEFA Champions League.
Inter Milan is home to Karat Amati, while Manchester City will take on Borussia Dortmund. Manchester City as well begin to get their scoring boots back.
When you have a player like Erling Braut Haaland, who knows how to score goals, who loves scoring goals, you think that offensively with Czechia, these guys can change the narrative for Manchester City. So we'll see how it goes, but it won't be rosy, as UEFA Champions League is a different league of its own.
Olympic Marseille will be playing at Atalanta later tonight as well at the Olympic Stadium, while Newcastle United will take on Athletic Club Bilbao in one of the fixtures that promises to be very thrilling at the UEFA Champions League. Meanwhile, Nigeria forward Ademola Lookman has reportedly been demanding a total package worth about 12 million from the Turkish champions. Ademola Lookman cannot stay out of controversy for some time now. He's been in the news right from the preseason.
Yeah, I think that he's just trying to. He's not been himself, with the club. With all that's happened, he's just trying to take his time. He's coming to the last stage of his contract. So at this point, he can start making those maybe January transfer window and all of that. A good deal can come and then he leaves.
Either looking at what will happen for him league, and that's the much we can take this hour. We'll definitely be back later at 6 p.m. Nigerian time for Sports Extraordinary. Later tonight in UEFA. Turkish league. Ahead of it, there are quite a lot happening in basketball as well. We'll take a reaction of So look forward to seeing you at 6 p.m. Update of the latest happening around the world of sport. Until then, remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress. Always enjoy here on Atlantic Television Network.